comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Trevor Scott, and with me as always is Ben Slinger.
Hello, Governor.
I very nearly said, and with me as always is Craig, the Discord recording bot.
With us, as always, from this point onwards, so we don't fucking lose shit again. Yes. Welcome to Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger, as Trevor said. This is a podcast. He's already said all this stuff. What am I saying? Let's do some Click Pitch.
Okay.
Click Pitch is a game where we each have a random word generator in front of us. And on the count of 3, 2, 1, click, we'll each get a word, read it out loud, jam them together, make a game.
Mm-hmm.
Although, having just said that, and we didn't discuss this previously, and we may not do this, but it is the Adventure Game Jam this fortnight.
Mm-hmm.
So in the spirit of that, we could attempt an AGDDQ.
I've got a better idea. Every single game design that we do is an adventure game.
Is a point and click adventure?
Yep.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Let's do that rather than a single game for the whole episode. We'll just make a series of point and click adventures. So hey, for those out there who are halfway through your adventure game jam, if you feel like pivoting mid jam into one of these ideas, feel free. They might suck, they might be awesome. Who knows?
Who knows?
3, 2, 1.
Click.
Membership.
Divine.
Oh, divine membership. Okay. So I like the idea then of this being, obviously, as we said, a point and click adventure game where you are someone trying to join the ranks of angels living in heaven.
Okay. But you're a demon. As in, you're a fallen angel.
Okay.
And you're now trying to get in the good graces, which is like a special membership called the Good Graces.
Right. That's what it's called. That's what this particular group of angels is called, the Good Graces.
Yeah.
Okay. I liked the idea of there being some stuff on Earth though. So are you maybe a la Good Omens, which I've just recently watched?
Great show. Yep.
So good. Are you perhaps a demon who is stationed on Earth, being given tasks? I mean, and this could obviously be very Good Omens inspired, where you have kind of your angel counterpart or counterparts who you've known for centuries, if not millennia, and you know they're either trying to stop you or help you. Like, it doesn't have to be the same thing where they've necessarily made friends, but you know there are these agents of heaven and hell on Earth, either sowing discord or performing miracles or whatever. And yeah, you play a demon. You play one of these demons, deciding that you want to bat for the other team.
Yeah, that sounds quite interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so my thought is that maybe this is sort of based in the near future, so you can have a little bit of extra technology sort of stuff, kind of like
we can be a bit loose with the available technology.
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking kind of like it's that typical Michael Shaw thing of it's 6 months in the future and everything is like stringed ahead by light years sort of thing.
Yeah. Or even just a bit of Black Mirror, where often there's just, slight advances in like phone technology and different things where you kind of got a bit more, a bit of futurism there.
So I'm starting to think that maybe this story is you get wind that this is the 15th time that Jesus has been sent down to Earth.
Okay.
And
which time was the big time? Was that the first time?
The first time was the only one that actually went to plan. Every other time, the person's being thought as being insane.
As a heretic or... Yep.
And basically, I'm thinking it's basically the last 15 generations or whatever.
Into every generation, a Jesus is born. No, okay, so wait, does that mean the rate of the Jesus's per millennia is speeding up?
Well, I think it's just that, the God being that is around, is trying to come back down to Earth, being reincarnated as his son and all this sort of stuff. But what's actually happening is that every time that he or she tries to come back, some weird shit happens and the plan gets completely foiled, and the person and Jesus ends up in like a mental asylum, or ends up getting killed early,
homeless for 30 years, and then dies of starvation and hypothermia.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I like that. And so this time, and so you're saying that as the demon, you've caught wind of the latest incarnation.
Yep.
And where it's going to occur, or where it has occurred.
Yes. And there's some sort of prophecy about a demon who will bring the second in like air quotes second coming of Jesus, and will be given absolution.
Okay,
so
by helping this Jesus child reach their destiny, or
reach their destiny, and what I'm actually sort of thinking is you've almost got like the angels who don't want Jesus to come to fruition. So it's almost like the reverse sort of thing. It's
Yep.
It's almost as if they don't
want the boat to be rocked, basically.
Because it was talked about that Jesus would return as the lion this time instead of the lamb, so would enact vengeance, and that's why you as a demon you're thinking that this is actually a good thing to reap, to sort of shake things up on Earth.
Yeah. Okay, so you still actually have malicious intentions then?
I think that's the way it sort of starts out. That your whole idea is, and you can sort of do a quick view of the angels sort of putting a stop to all these comings of Jesus, or you see angels interfering in all these different lives of these slightly similar looking people who over the years, and you just do like a vignette of each one sort of in the intro.
Yeah.
And I'm picturing that you see like a Brady Bunch style screen of like 9 incidents all happen at the same time.
Of just all these different things that happen to
Yeah. Just sort of showing that.
So Jesus resurrected into, different nationalities, different genders, different classes, different situations every time, and still somehow something happens. And so is it that you notice somehow, or you have a realization that, I wonder if God is thinking that each time this happens, it's the demons that are thwarting him, but it turns out that it's the angels.
Yeah.
And this time a demon has to help him.
Well, what I think is the end of the first act is like the realization, maybe you as a person don't actually know that your character is actually a demon.
Right. Okay. You just know you've sort of got some powers.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea of not quite a Good Omens thing of holy water, melts you sort of thing. But I think holy water does, reveal your true personality.
Yeah, okay. And so at the end of the first act,
that's where that happens.
Something occurs where you get sprayed or splashed with holy water, and
I suppose because I've been watching a lot of Lucifer and a lot of and Good Omens and all this sort of stuff. Like my head is definitely
there's some influence there, but that's okay.
In the Neil Gaiman verse of
yeah, we can mash that up. That's fine. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. So, how old is this Jesus when you find him? Is it a him this time?
I think it's a her this time.
Jesussica?
If this episode isn't called Jesussica, then there's something wrong. Because that's awesome.
Oh, that was awesome. So how old is she? Are we thinking, are we thinking she's been on Earth for a while now and is kind of coming into her, her messianic self, or is this like early days, or do we do again a Good Omens-esque kind of thing where, you find her as a young child and are around for her childhood to sort of protect and guide?
Yeah, I think it might actually be one of those things. If I remember the story of when Jesus actually found out he was the Son of God, it was around 12. So I'm picturing that the first part of the game is around the 12 years old.
Yeah.
And then it sort of kicks forward to like
witness
the 30.
that.
So it's that 18-year gap.
Yeah. 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 You get to, maybe there's a little montage or a few vignettes to fill in that gap.
Yeah.
So what would a modern female Jesus be like, do you think?
Middle Eastern to start off with.
Yep.
I think that's a common thread throughout this whole thing. Like, always Middle Eastern, but couldn't be anywhere in the world, sort of thing, because there's been a lot of
migrations and of course, yeah. There's a bloodline, so there's some sort of bloodline going back, but it's heavily diluted by this point. Okay, and I'm just thinking, like, is she like a hippie because of the robes and the bare feet, or was that just because it was the style at the time?
It was the style at the time, so
she would take on some other sort of.
I'm just wondering whether you go in a Futurama sort of way of thinking of, in the early episodes where they go to all these different bars and people be wearing like the big hoops and all that sort of stuff, and they go, oh, it's so retro. Just picturing like.
So you just come up with some fashion that's just completely out there, but then everyone's like always telling her that she's behind the times.
Yep.
Okay, but it could be maybe reminiscent of the classic Jesus look, but have some modern stylings or something.
Yeah, I like that.
It's not floor-length robes, but maybe it's sort of a dress that resembles, I don't know, large sleeves and
puffy sleeves.
Puffy sleeves.
The strapless sort of style, but with big puffy sleeves. It's
totally
connected just under the arm. Oh god, it's freaking hilarious.
And so, does she come into her powers at 12, or is that not until she's older? Because there's some pretty obvious jokes you can obviously do with like water to wine and loaves and fishes and different things, and bringing that into the modern day. Is she like a professional woman, sort of working woman, or?
Yeah, I'm thinking one of the vignettes, she goes to like a club, orders a water, and then, she turns in a wine glass, and as she turns away, it turns into wine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she just gets cheap drinks everywhere because she just orders water.
Can you fill this champagne glass up with water, with sparkling water? She turns around and turns into sparkling wine.
She actually has become quite skilled at it. She can do white wine now too. If she's really concentrated, she can do a rosé.
Oh, I think, red wine was just the only one known at the time. It turns out that, like, if they knew about spirits, it turns out.
Oh, she can just do anything. Funnily enough, it's not water. Like, to do spirits, you need something other than water. It's like, if you can get a glass full of Sprite, you can turn it into whiskey. It's like, it's just a weird thing.
Get it right. Sprite is rum.
Oh, right. Okay.
And surprisingly, crystal.
Or it has to be an appropriate mixer.
Crystal Pepsi is gin.
which means she always has to pay for a gin now because she can't find Crystal Pepsi anywhere. or did they deal with like resurgence of it in 2027?
Oh, something like that. So, okay, your character is, I don't know, one of the lesser demons. Don't even have to have a name, sort of thing. I like the idea that you're sort of trying to help out, but also be sort of hidden from Jesussica. I like the idea of kind of like the help that's they were giving in Good Omens, that they were disguised.
Disguised, yeah.
Each time that you go into a new sort of setup, you're disguised, and therefore you've got to sort of make your moves in the background.
Yeah, and like make contact, but in an innocuous way, but then still somehow give them some advice or like push. You help her make a serious decision. Maybe that's what each of these vignettes is kind of a crossroads in her life, and you're drawn to her in those moments to help her through them.
Mm-hmm. I'm just imagining that as the game goes on and you get into the second act and all this sort of stuff, where you're realizing the plot against Jesussica, that there's angels almost in every sort of scene that you end up at, and you got to come up with some way of foiling their plans without revealing the whole thing too.
Yeah, well, I think once she gets to 30, that's kind of, you go back into, I guess, like real time, as it were, and that's really where both her kind of, her role as the Messiah is really starting to take shape, but as a result of that, and just because of the divine timing of it all, the angels are also kind of ramping up their plot.
Yep.
And so maybe it's at that point that you actually make real contact with Jesussica, and like reveal yourself as this demon, and you have a bit of a scene around that, but you manage to convince her that you want to help, and so like the sort of latter half of Act 2 and into Act 3 with the finale, heading towards the finale, is you sort of trying to
help her come into her prime.
Help her come into her prime, and thus be out, be strong enough to thwart their plans.
Which is to stop her coming to full power to basically almost destroy the Earth.
Yeah, well, and again, maybe we can have multiple endings. Maybe with those vignettes during that 18-year gap, it's actually, you can guide her in different directions towards, like, vengeance versus compassion or something, and all that does is alter the very, the actual final ending of once she reaches her full power, what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I really quite like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
The story is really quite cool. I can just picture it almost. I'm definitely thinking it's kind of like one of the old Sierra adventures.
I think so. Yeah, that's kind of where my mind was going. A bit more like sort of semi-realistic, proportional humans.
Yep, definitely.
Like original Gabriel Knight kind of style or something.
Yes.
Mm.
Around there.
Maybe higher. Maybe you can do higher res than that.
Yes.
Now, but generally that sort of art style.
Yeah. Hand painted backgrounds, all that sort of stuff. Just getting that really nice.
Yeah.
256 colours. Okay.
All right.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1, click. For our next adventure game of the episode, Safe
Protein.
Safe Protein. Okay. I kind of like the idea of an adventure game set in a gym.
Okay. Yep.
And maybe there's maybe you play like the manager of the gym who's come up with a protein shake that is like flawless and like where I'm thinking Safe comes in is that like part of the one of the puzzles is having to steal it from the safe that this manager keeps it in.
So I think this is actually like a protein shake that has all the benefits of like steroids.
Okay.
But none of the drawbacks.
None of the drawbacks.
So in other words, people that are drinking this protein shake, they get like big muscles and all this sort of stuff, but they also have normal sized testicles.
Yeah. Gotcha. So it's basically, it's a miracle protein shake that gets you ripped and swole and fucking, then you can even lift, bro, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, but the one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't turn you into like that sort of steroid rager sort of person. So it's not, it doesn't have any of the roid rage that you expect.
Yeah, I think we can basically kind of assume that it's the perfect protein shake. All of the benefits, none of the side effects of steroids.
Is your character like from another rival gym?
Ooh. It's like Jim versus Jim, and his name's Jim. Jim's Jim.
Oh god. So I'm just picturing that it's sort of like a little bit of corporate espionage, but you've got to try and incorporate yourself into the gym, and then.
Yeah, well, I think in the kind of in the style of the old Sierra games and a lot of adventure games, where you're often playing kind of a bit of a bumbler, instead of being like the owner of the other gym, I think you're just someone caught in the middle. Yeah.
You're
between these two gyms,
because I would expect that Jim would know his rival, all his rivals, whereas he wouldn't know the lowly sort of accountant who's just come into the team.
Well, I think even you are just like, you're a weakling. And again, we can play on the tropes of, the skinny armed, spaghetti armed kind of teenager, or not, maybe not a teenager, like early 20s, nerdy type, comes into the gym. Jim, well, wait, which one's Jim?
Jim is the guy who's come up with the protein shake.
Yeah. So he comes into the other gym. Who owns this gym? James? He goes by James. James's gym. Jamie.
Okay, so Jim, who owns the gym. I have a feeling I'd like his name to actually be almost like one of these millennials whose name is Jim, but it's spelt Gym. So it's Jim's Gym.
So it's literally Jim's Gym. Yeah, sure. His parents thought that they'd be clever, and
oh yeah, and I kind of like the idea of a recurring joke that like one of the other guys keeps on calling him Jime.
Yep. And then, well, let's make the owner of the other gym a woman then, and maybe are we going to go with the alliteration again?
Gina.
Gina's gym?
Yep.
Okay. But it's with a J.
And because she likes it.
And so hers is spelt like JINA_S JYM.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because she really wanted the alliteration.
She likes the J's. And then the other one is literally GYM_S GYM. All right, and so you play...
Oh, God.
You play this nerdy kid, or nerdy, like, person, early 20s, I think. Kind of a bumbler. You come into Gina's gym and you want to get ripped. That's your goal.
Yep.
Now, I think we need to put an obstacle in front of... should we make the player character a man or a woman, do you think?
Selectable by the player.
All right, just to make things tricky.
Yep.
That's fine. Well, let's come up with a unisex name.
Peter.
That we can
so it can
use.
be either PETA or PETER.
Sure, Peter.
And the girls one is PETER.
Just to really fuck things around.
No, it was just a joke. Just jokes.
Yeah. So Peter comes into Gina's gym, and I think we need to throw an obstacle in front of them there's a reason that Gina needs them to do this, right? It's sort of, if you go and do this and do this corporate espionage, you'll get free membership to the gym for forever or something like that.
Yeah. So
maybe there's sort of a little scene that starts off and Peter is just useless and weak, and Gina's trying to help them, and it's just like, okay, you're going to need a lot of work. Like, I don't think you can afford it.
and then Peter goes outside and accidentally backs into Gina's car and does some damage and therefore is now indebted to Gina.
Sure. All right. And and then so, I like that. And so there's this, you sort of move to a scene where there are negotiations in place of like, all right, you can't afford this. You fucked up my car. You're totally weak. You can't even afford my gym. But I've heard rumors that Gaim over at Gaim's gym has come up with this ultimate protein shake. And if you get it for me, if you get the prototype shake for me, not only will I forgive the debt and give you free membership to the gym for the next 30 years, but you can have a sip of the shake. And obviously Peter agrees. Yeah.
Peter basically doesn't want to have their legs broken. It's like I'm imagining Gina has like these muscles.
She's very intimidating.
All this muscle here, who's just literally threatening to break legs and all this sort of stuff.
Like it's actually literally her muscles. Like they talk. That's how ripped she is.
What she actually wants it for is to feed her muscles the protein shake because they've got mouths. And
yeah, they're getting hungry. She's scared of her muscles now.
Abdominals.
I actually love the idea that she talks to her muscles. and I don't know if initially like they don't talk back and it's just she's kind of a bit, really over the top in love with herself, but then you show a scene or maybe even like post credits you end up with a little dialogue between her and her muscles where they're actually like talking back to her and having a conversation. Just as a little Easter egg.
Just to go really Cronenberg on everyone.
Oh, totally. So yeah, this is definitely like a goofy, funny game.
Without a doubt. It's everything that Jesussica wasn't.
Well, I think that was, I mean, the name of the protagonist of that one aside, I think that could have rode that line of sort of comedy and drama a bit more closely. But this one's just pure, pure gags the whole way.
Sight gags, audio gags, slapstick. Tropes.
So let's just quickly run down like the rest of the plot. Because that's either your intro or halfway through your act one.
Yeah.
And then the main stuff is obviously going to happen around Jim's gym.
Yep.
Obviously we don't have to do all the puzzles, but like what sorts of things are we thinking? You're going to get wacky characters there that you meet.
Yeah.
And you can recruit help from some of the other people at Gina's.
Yeah. I'm imagining that Jim is just an all-around good guy. Like, and you start getting concerned that maybe you're working for the bad guys sort of thing.
Yeah, you've got a one of those scenes with you, are we the bad guys?
The guys in the Nazi uniforms just like, are we the bad guys?
Are we the bad guys? I can't remember the name of those two guys, but they're funny. Yeah, and that's a nice little twist. So do you think Peter comes clean with Jim then? Or is that maybe a post, like maybe the end of Act 2 is you getting the shake?
Giving it to Gina and Gina feeding it to her muscles or taking it behind closed doors and she comes out and she's fully ripped. And that's when you realize that you've given it to the wrong person sort of thing.
And she's just like unstoppable now. Yeah. And then you have to go back to Jim for help to stop Gina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good little twist there.
Yeah.
Good little final turn.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering what sort of puzzles you can have. I mean, I like dialogue puzzles. I like there's some mini games sort of things, kind of like how Sierra put in a lot of those sort of mini games in their earlier games.
Yeah, the horribly difficult and hard to control ones, sure.
Yeah, but actually good quality.
But we'll make them better, yeah.
And worth money.
I could
almost like
do
a
some,
Beavis and Butthead and Virtual Stupidity. How that had lots of little mini games, but it was still a fully fledged adventure as well. Like, you know, you can have a boxing mini game, you can have like a weightlifting mini game, you can have just little mini games here and there.
Yeah, I like the idea of having mini games that really just, you know, they don't necessarily, most of the time they're probably not going to actually alter the course of the game or require you to, you know, do well enough at them to continue. It's more just, you know, you'll get different dialogue responses based on how well you go, or you might even get some slight branching plot based on whether you succeed or fail at something for the next scene. But yeah, that it's just sort of a bit of fun, a bit to break up the types of interactions.
Yeah, and just the idea of, you know, you have to sort of get in contact with like a sparring group that come down every or meet up every night for basically sparring sessions, so that you've got a reason to be there at night to sneak into to break into the.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think basically your steps are kind of going to be scout out Jim's gym.
Yep.
Talk to him about the protein shake, and, you know, he's probably pretty cagey about it, but then, you know, you go around and you talk to the other regulars at the gym, and you start to piece together where it's kept, you know, how you might be able to get to it. Yeah, you do find out that, you know, here's the nighttime routine. He like locks it up in the safe and leaves and, you know, turns this alarm on or whatever. And by talking to each of these regulars, you're going to get different skills or get different items or get different ways for you to basically put that final heist together.
Yeah.
With which to get this shake.
Yeah, I'm imagining that, you know, there's some sort of puzzle around opening the safe, that there's some sort of biometric lock that you need to get access to, like maybe some DNA of Jim.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you have to like, well, because that, you know, Jim is like super picky about people wiping down their machines.
Yep.
But so one of the puzzles is you have to get him to use the machine and then distract him enough that he doesn't wipe it down afterwards.
Yeah, so you get his sweat.
Then you manage to get his sweat. Yeah, I like that sort of thing. And I can picture that maybe there are a couple of trainers around the gym as well and they've each got, you know, particularly wacky ways of training you in a particular skill that you then will eventually use in that final heist as well.
Yeah.
So whether it's a certain type of lift or, you know, different machine or, you know, using a fucking, teaching you to do one of the tasks is just to learn how to do one crunch, like one sit up.
I thought you were going to say one of them was to do one chin up, and you know you have to do that sort of chin up because you're infiltrating the place through the vents, and there's like this one little place that you got to climb up like a 2 meter.
Yeah, a chin up could work too. I was thinking something similar. Yeah, something like that, like something that. Like for most people, they can do at least one, you know, to 10. But for Peter, it's a real struggle just to get that one. But they, you know, this trainer teaches you a certain technique, and then when you're breaking in, you need to do a single, whatever, chin up or sit up. Or
one push up.
Yeah, it could be exactly. Yeah, and so you put together that heist. And then, I think we've sort of explained the rest. Like you get the protein shake, you get it back to him, get it back to Gina. She roids out, even though it's the effects. It's just her. It's her personality. Yeah. It's not the effects of the shake.
Oh, it's the fact that she also took, you know, anabolic steroids as well, and you know the two combined do not make a good combination.
Maybe, yeah, okay. And then, so how do you think they defeat her?
I think they end up...
Is there like an antidote? Like, I don't think they should kill her or anything or harm her.
No. I think it should be kind of like... I don't know why, but the the movie Orgasmo's coming into my head. In the fact that like at the end, you know, they went up against a guy and they kept on hitting with the Orgasmatron, and then in the end he became the evil nemesis that they talked about throughout the whole thing. Sort of like you've got that reveal of wasn't fully defeated.
Yeah, and in fact, by the way you defeated them, you've made them more powerful for their next kind of plan. Yeah, and
I think that's got something to do with all the chemicals that have sort of altered her physiology, and, you know, now the muscles are actually literally speaking.
Yeah, okay, I was going to say, that's actually a good way to end it then. It's now her muscles have literally become sentient.
Yeah.
Previously, she was just talking to them because she was proud of her body.
Yeah, kind of like the gun show, you know, sort of thing.
Yeah. And now they talk back.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Oh, yeah, I like that a lot. All right. Cool. 3, 2, 1, click. All right. Language.
Relocation.
Huh. Okay, this makes me think of a sort of an idea we've done before, although I don't think we've done it as a point and click. But having a character dropped into a place where they are like literally don't speak the language of the rest of the people around them, and so have to find other ways to communicate.
Mm-hmm. For some reason, I just can't get out of my head that adventure game that you showed me, which had like the word cannon sort of thing, where you threw words yes. at other things. I kind of like that idea, but obviously we're not going to do that.
Well, yeah, somebody's already doing that.
Yeah.
Although we could try to come up with novel ways of throwing verbs around. But yeah, having verbs as a physical piece of the world is really cool.
Yep. Okay, so language relocation.
Relocation. Is this an Inside Out-esque story where you are a child whose parents have moved them to a new city, and it's kind of having to navigate your life through that? Now, whether you actually literally do Inside Out and there's some level of like things inside their head discussing the next moves, or whether it's just, you know, it's just a general, you are this teenager and in a new school, and I mean, I think language would come into it just from, you know, there's new slang to learn, and there's, I mean, or it could be in a different country or something, but I guess it depends on how much we want to play up that language barrier.
I don't know. I kind of like the idea of you being like the son or daughter of a diplomat who's just been put into like the Australian embassy or whatever in some other country, and the choice to actually go to the school rather than being homeschooled is sort of made. Well,
okay, so we could take this in two ways, and I think they give different experiences. And give us different opportunities. Because, I like that idea. I like the idea of a teenager being thrown into a school with a language that they really don't speak. Now, we could do it that you're an Australian family an Australian diplomat in another country, or we could do that you are a diplomat from another country coming to Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I feel like, obviously, in both cases, you've got some interesting opportunities for exploring whatever culture it is that you drop that into. But I think like someone coming from another country to Australia, you could have some really good opportunities to sort of really show empathy towards what that would be like for someone coming into the situation that everybody else is familiar with.
Yeah.
Who's, or like the core audience probably who's playing the game is familiar with. And that we know, obviously, but not actually being able to understand. Like you make all the Australian, like you make all the English nonsense that the player can't understand until they start to pick up words.
Oh yeah,
I feel like that could be really interesting.
So the wrapper sort of lesson is English itself, like each time that your character goes to like English, starts picking up extra little words in English.
Yeah, perhaps, or I think they just learn it through dialogue and stuff too, right? Like just through immersion.
Yep.
Obviously they start picking up words, and by the end of the game, you're not fluent, but you're pretty well understanding how what people are saying. But I like the idea of still you could write the dialogue in a way like it's going to come across as broken English, because that's how, like, when someone else who's learning our language, when they speak, often it comes across as very broken, but that's the way they hear it as well, because they're just picking up on the words they understand, and they don't, fully get the grammar and the sentence structure and stuff. So,
okay, so what it actually sounds like to you is like when the adults speak in the Peanuts cartoons. So it's got that
yeah, but more Australian.
But
it's like my card. Yeah, but I think that's the case for everyone, right? And this might be one of those ones where you can't really voice it, or it'd be a challenge to voice it, because you would have to just make sort of general, not quite Simlish style speak, but more like muttering that you can't understand. And then, as you start to pick up words, they become clear in the sentence. And I'm not thinking that this is systems based, as such. I think it's more just narrative based, like at certain
narrative
points
based.
in the story.
This is the certain point that you now can pick up this word, and this word.
Yeah, and you don't even make that explicit. It's more just like once you get past certain parts in the story, as the writers, we start throwing in more actual words that you know.
Yeah.
And look, this is the sort of game that the writers would absolutely have to either, one, have English as their second language, or strongly consult with people who have learned English as a second language to really, I think you'd really want to make that realistic.
Yeah. So I don't reckon we can talk about that any longer, but it's a cool sounding game, and
yeah, I think we got the general idea, and I think you could do some really cool stuff with it in an adventure like that. It's a perfect genre for playing with language,
It is.
All right. First one, click.
Detective.
Tin. Detective Tin.
So it's a Tintin game.
Steel. A Tintin game.
Plenty that we can take that.
Yeah. We could do a Tintin game.
I'm kind of surprised that like there hasn't actually been a Tintin licensed adventure game.
Yeah, have there been any Tintin games?
I don't know.
Yes, there was one for the movie, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
The Secret of the Unicorn came out in 2011.
Okay.
And it was a 2D platformer on the previous generation. And mobile. But yeah, we could do a more classic. You and I tend towards the golden age of adventure game style, yes. Sierra and LucasArts sort of things. All right, I'm just like trolling the depth of my Tintin knowledge. I read a lot of Tintin, and I've retained nearly zero of it.
I've retained a lot more asterisks than what I have.
Yeah, probably more asterisks. Maybe we just shift it to crossover, perhaps.
No.
Tintin goes back in time to ancient Rome. No, all right.
He's a big
Tintin,
fat guy.
Captain Blowhard. What was his name? There was the Professor Moonface.
Well, I'm imagining that the main crux of the game is you got Tintin and Snowy.
Yep.
And I know you can start out that they're shipwrecked or something like that.
And they always are. Except for the time they went to the moon. I remember
that. So pretty much it starts off that, you wake up and Tintin says, "Oh, not again, Snowy." And they're now constructing like a raft sort of thing to get off.
Can we play as Snowy? Or maybe just there's some sections you play as Snowy.
Yeah, I think there's some sections that Snowy has to go off and get something because it's in like in a cave or something like that. Like with a small entrance.
Maybe Snowy becomes one of your inventory items a la Max.
Yeah, I like that. That. But follows along kind of like a Pikachu Pokemon. Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Snowy, I choose you.
And later on you pick up other pets like Captain Haddock, which I've now looked up the name of. He just swears at them. Drinks.
Oh God. Is it going to be an adult version of it that, there's it's when Tintin's actually like a young adult? Like
how old
18,
is he
19?
supposed to be? I mean, I feel like that's how old he was kind of supposed to be already.
Was he?
Yeah, he was like a reporter. I think he was an adult. He just looked like he was just a baby face.
Tintin website states his age between 16 and 18. So, okay, I'm picturing that Tintin is around 28 now in this.
All right, so he's a bit more jaded. He's a bit older. He still have the same haircut. It's just flopped down a bit more.
Yeah. I think maybe what's actually happened is it's kind of like Castaway in that he looked fine when he was first shipwrecked, but by the time that he leaves, he's got a big bushy beard, and it's 10 years later.
Wait, are you saying how long is he shipwrecked here for?
I just said 10 years.
Oh Jesus! I didn't. Okay. All right, that's interesting. So he's gone through all these adventures between the ages of 16 and 18, and then he gets shipwrecked and not rescued for a decade.
Yep.
Snowy's dead.
You've now got Snowy 2.
Snowy 2. How did you get Snowy 2?
So Snowy 1 was a female and was pregnant.
Okay.
There you go. Perfect.
We're breaking canon, I think, but that's all right. Okay. So, do you come in... So I like the idea then that the game starts with young Tintin.
Yep.
Who has just been shipwrecked. And the player initially just thinks, oh, this is going to be a fun Tintin adventure. And you maybe have to do some puzzles. Maybe you give them some hope. There's an obvious way that you're going to be able to patch up this boat and get off this island, or call for help or something.
Yeah.
And so you do some puzzles and it looks like it's all going to work, and then something goes horribly wrong. Maybe you're trying to set off a flare.
Yep.
But instead it just burns the whole boat. And
or you're trying to fix the radio and an electrical fire starts up and burns the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, just something.
And then it just cuts to black and fades up with 10 years later. And there's this fucking older guy with a ginger beard.
Yep.
Long bushy hair. There's a gravestone in the background from Snowy.
Oh, God.
If you want, we can go that, yeah, we can break that canon and say she was pregnant when they got on the boat, or maybe she bred with the local wolves or something.
With a local wolf.
Yeah, with a local wolf on the island.
Oh, God.
And so they've got a half, what did I see it was? Wire terrier.
Yeah.
Wire fox terrier. Half wolf.
So I think when it comes back up with 10 years later, that's when a plane goes by overhead and sees this massive message that Tintin's put down on the ground.
Yeah, it's a paragraph. He spent the last 10 years, to whom it may concern.
Oh, P.S. Help.
P.S. Get me the fuck off this island. My dog died. Yeah, so I like that most of this, that's the end of the first act, is he gets rescued. Like you sort of got the prologue, the 10 years later, the first act. You call in the plane, and then he gets rescued, and then the next part of the game is him reacclimating to life, and seeing Captain Haddock as this. He's like 65 now or something.
Yep. Instead of the just the big bushy black beard that he had, he's now got a big white bushy beard
and a bald spot. Or did he already have a bald spot?
I don't know.
But, yeah.
I'm just looking at a picture at the moment. I see like all the adults seem to have some sort of facial hair, usually a mustache.
One of the Thompson twins has died. Well, are they even twins, or they're just friends? Because they've got different last names. They're Thompson and Thompson with a P.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea that Thompson doesn't want to talk about it.
Or are they married?
But you don't know which Thompson twin it is because they keep on interchanging the P and non-P.
The P? Yeah. I don't remember any of these other main characters except for Professor Calculus. Yeah, they all thought you were dead, obviously.
I kind of like the idea that, Tintin starts realizing that these people that he once knew aren't quite right. Like,
oh.
And so what it could actually come down to is that this whole shipwreck thing was actually, a ruse sort of thing. It was actually like he's in some sort of virtual reality. just to break out of the whole this can still be canon, but
right.
It's as if Tintin was in nowadays instead of 1929.
So is this a reveal at the end that is he even a real person, or is it literally like someone has created an AI that thinks it's Tintin from the old Tintin comics? Like it's set in our world where Tintin is fictional.
Yeah.
But they've created a sentient AI that thinks it's Tintin. And that's why some of these things are like a bit off.
Yeah.
Because, machine learning is never quite right.
I know. I just reckon that'd be a pretty cool way of like breaking the typical tropes of these adventures.
For sure. Hey, Tintin's pretty old. Is it out of fucking is it in the public domain? Can do whatever the fuck we want. 70 years after Hergé is dead.
2053.
No, not for another 25 years.
And
35 years.
So yeah, they're basically saying that they're going to do anything they can to prevent it becoming public domain after 2053.
Yeah, fuck off. If you've had it for that long, let it become public domain, for Christ's sake. Anyway, yes, we'll just risk getting sued if we ever decide to make this, which of course we won't, because this is Bitstorm.
Yes,
not.
We've never made a game
company.
yet. We procrastinate a lot. Okay, yeah. I reckon we've got time.
I'd love to write some of these. All right, let's do one more quickie. A quickie 3, adventure. Dicky. Money.
Sexuality.
Ooh. Okay. It could be touchy ground, and like some of these games where you touch on more serious subjects, we shouldn't be the ones to write it.
Mm-hmm.
But a game that actually it takes place in like a brothel could be quite interesting, and examines the situation of sex workers and the things that they come up against.
Mm-hmm. What time period?
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, is this a...
You could kind of go...
Is this a Dolly Parton in Best Little Whorehouse in Texas? Or is this a Game of Thrones style brothel? God. Is this a red light district in the 1980s around, or the 1970s with Roxanne?
You know much more about about sex work in pop culture than I do, apparently. Because I couldn't have pulled
It's just the
any of those out.
1980s and you got Charlotte the Harlot.
I don't know. When was, I mean, or we could go modern day and just, do a more, it doesn't have to be serious necessarily as such, like you can still obviously bring some humor into it, but just, or even exploring, the internet and sex work and how that plays into it. Like maybe you're a cam girl kind of thing and you're balancing that life with your real life and not being discovered, and how, or people in your life do find out about it and how they react and how you deal with that and how it affects your life.
I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable about this whole thing, so let's just click again quickly.
Okay, I will say that, I prefaced it. I prefaced it with, we shouldn't write it, but I think that there's a game there for somebody to write.
Yes.
All right. One last one. 3, 2, 1, click.
Wasting.
Appetizer.
For some reason, I've got this idea in my head of like an adventure game of this guy who's literally like stuck in a chair.
Okay, so that's interesting because I was thinking an adventure game that is purely set at a dinner table.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's necessarily physically stuck in a chair, but I kind of like the idea of an adventure game that your entire view is just kind of panning left and right around this dinner table with 8 or 10 people at it.
Mm-hmm. And
you can choose to converse with the different people. They might be talking to each other, and you can choose to try to eavesdrop or listen, but you might get interrupted by someone who tries to talk to you. And you could even still have some basic inventory puzzles and stuff. But it's all things around the table, right? Like,
okay,
particular types of food or your cutlery or different things that you can combine if there are certain puzzles that call for that.
Yeah, I'm certainly seeing this as VR.
Okay, yeah, you could do it as VR for sure.
Because I like the idea of having that whole,
the free view,
the view and the scale of you sitting
Yep.
at the table.
Yep.
So my idea is actually that your character is actually maybe a mute. So
okay,
can't speak, and you can sort of say that very early on. That
is it some sort of accident, perhaps?
Yeah, that's
because I'm just thinking the people who can't speak from birth often, I guess it could be a genetic thing, they can't speak from birth, but they're still able to. That's the only thing they don't have any other disabilities. I guess
the reason why you can't leave the table is, I think you can pretty much put it in that it's a I'm almost thinking that it's almost that you're playing a kid at the table and you get told that you're not allowed to leave the table.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we don't necessarily have to have a story reason why you don't leave the table. Like, it could just be this is where it's set and there's no reason to. But that also could be fun to play with, where if you try to interact with something away from the table, like one of the adults kind of yells at you.
Mm-hmm. One of the puzzles I'm picturing is that, and this is leading more to a kid, but they don't like their vegetables, and so that they can pick it up and feed it to the dog under the table, sort of thing.
All right, so do we maybe make this? Because then I feel like there are two ways we could go with this now. We could go with the kid thing, but then if they're at the adult table, I feel like that limits the sort of conversation options, because you're not going to have, full-on dialogues that are interesting with the other adults around the table, particularly. But they could be at the kids' table. And if they're like 12 or 13, like on the cusp of kind of puberty, then I feel like there are a lot of conversations you could have with, maybe you've got a cousin or a friend that's around your sort of age. You've got some of the younger kids. You've got the occasional interactions with the adults at the bigger table up there. And again, you can kind of set that scale, right? Although I guess at 13, you're not that much smaller than the other adults, but still the scale, it's a lower table, you know? And so I like that idea of kind of, having the adults call over to you to stop fucking around.
Yep.
As you like flick peas or something.
Ooh. What if? And just tell me whether you like this or not.
Okay.
Your character is actually the heir to the throne. Or is actually a king sort of thing. And
so you're shifting up the time period here.
Yeah, I'm picturing that.
Or is this still
your
modern?
Character is still like 13, 14, and there's someone in place who is actually like the guardian, and you know is running the kingdom while you're growing up, sort of thing.
Yeah. And
so everyone who comes to this dinner, you know, they're sort of being reverent to you or whatever, you know, interested in what you have to say, but also they're not necessarily, you know, they don't treat you with as much respect as what a of age king would have.
So I think there's some interesting stuff there. I think I like the idea of mixing it up so it's not just sort of your traditional suburban dinner party. What if, instead of going like royal monarchy, what if you're like the kid of a famous superhero? And so there are some of the tropes of the suburban dinner party, but then you get to mix it up with, like, this is a dinner party of adult superheroes, and then all their kids might just be sort of half coming into their powers. And so you get to do a bit of world building around, like, oh, my dad killed Godzilla before he destroyed the Empire State Building or something. Like, you know, you could kind of have these tall tales, but except they're probably actually true because these are all superheroes. My dad could beat up your dad. Oh, yeah, but my dad's merged with the Speed Force and, you know, he could go faster. He'd be able to run away. Like, it's the sort of conversations kids have about superheroes, except it's about their actual parents.
Well, my dad could beat you even with a kryptonite ring.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of love that idea of these kids like arguing on that sort of thing. And then, you know, maybe and this could just be for the ease of use in VR, maybe the power that you're coming into is like telekinesis, so you can kind of force pull things from across the room and use that as part of your puzzle solving and different things. Yeah,
I do like that.
You've got kids around the table like fucking breathing fire and stretching and disappearing, but only in part, right? Because they haven't quite figured it out yet.
I like this one kid. Anytime they sort of reach for something, you know, something on the table gets set on fire because they don't have quite their pyrokinesis quite working properly yet.
Every time they go to eat, just like
it gets burnt to a crisp.
Melts. Yeah, it melts in front of them before it reaches their mouth or something. They're all disappointed. They accidentally spit acid on it.
I'm just picturing like this kid who's got all these lizard-like features and is like, just hit puberty.
Yeah, exactly. Can you tell? He just tried to put makeup over the top of his scales.
Oh God!
All right, I love that a lot.
Yep. And the thing is, you don't even have to mention their parents. It's almost like this is a birthday party that you're at.
Oh, you could. I do kind of like the dynamic of having the parents there, sort of in the background, and again, occasionally like yelling at them. You know, fucking Mr. Fantastic like stretches over from the adult's table to like slap something out of his kid's hand that he's not meant to be playing with.
Yeah, that could actually be kind of cool.
Yeah,
like the Invisible Man all of a sudden just knocks like lollies or something out of his kid's hands so that he doesn't gorge himself on lollies and stuff. Yeah.
You could do some really fun stuff with that. And then you can add all these like real goofy parent things. into the adults as well. Like one of them's sort of a bit of a prankster, one of them's a bit of a disciplinarian, one of them, telling dad jokes the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, what I do like though is that if we wrote it well enough and sort of you could tell that these are the characters that we're trying to hit, but they're not necessarily named, Wonder Woman or Superman
you do
or
little
Lois
you riff
Clark
off them.
sort of thing. But you sort of know that, okay, this person is riffing off the Flash, this person is riffing off Iron Man, this person is...
totally.
And you have that.
And then you could also have their like mundane spouses, like some of them that's superheroes that have married each other, but some of them, they've fallen in love with mortals or with non-supers, and there's that dynamic as well.
Yeah.
Which could be really fun too.
Yeah, it could be.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I want to play that game.
Yeah, don't quite know what you're going to do as an end sort of game, but it's...
I think it'd just be one of those kind of... You're just telling a little bit of a story.
Yeah, kind of like an experience that you sort of... No matter what you do, it's going to happen, but...
It probably ends with, like, the roof being torn off the house and all the adults, like, going off to fight some evil.
Probably.
The kids are just like, all right, we get to watch a movie.
Okay.
All right, I think we'll end it there.
Yes.
So thank you for joining us this week on Bitstorm. If you want to find us online, the best place to go is podchaser.com. That's podchaser.com/Bitstorm, all one word. You'll find all of our socials and other things up there, creative profiles. Check it out. We're also part of the 8-Bit Collective. This is a group of podcasts who all talk about gaming and other things, and we kind of help each other out and have fun and do cool shit. Check that out at 8bit.net or our site at 8bit.net/Bitstorm.
I recommend that you check out the 8-Bit Patreon.
Yes.
Go to patreon.com/weare8bit. If you get in on like the lowest tier, you'll actually be able to hear me, myself, and I on the next or the latest episode of the 8-Bit Cast. Of course, you could wait for two more weeks, but no, get onto the Patreon now. I'm on that episode. I talk about all the things that I suck at. So that's kind of an interesting...
It's a long episode.
Yeah, it goes for about an hour and a half, but it's not just me. It's also Brendan and Miss Ellie from 8-Bit, and we had a great conversation this past weekend.
Nice.
Also check out the AGPN, the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network. Search for the Facebook group, the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network, or look for @AGP Network on Twitter. And finally, we'd like to thank Kuradust for the use of the song Mount Defiance off of the album Containment Failure.
Yeah, so thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I am Ben Slinger.
I am Trevor Scott.
And my dad can beat up your dad.